Today's story is the Genesis Protocol. Let's listen together. The clinic smelled of bleach and something sweeter underneath, like fruit left too long in the sun. Yunsol pressed her palms against the examination table, paper crinkling beneath her hands, and tried not to look at the ultrasound screen.
Everything looks perfect. Truly perfect.
The doctor's voice had that careful brightness people used around pregnant women, as if volume alone could manifest health. Yunsol studied his face instead of the screen, watching for the flicker that would betray concern. But Dr. Yang only smiled, his teeth very white against his surgical mask.
Can you tell what it is yet?
Not yet. Still early. But the development is remarkable. I've never seen such symmetry.
Symmetry. The word sat wrong in Yunsol's mouth. She thought of the pill bottle in her purse, the ones Dr. Yang had prescribed 3 months ago when she'd come to him, desperate, 38 years old and running out of time. Genesis 7, the label read, a supplement, he'd called it. Completely natural, completely safe. She'd asked what was in it. He'd smiled that same bright smile and said, tradition, modernized, the best of old wisdom and new science.
My mother called this morning. She wanted to know if I was eating properly.
And are you?
I can't keep anything down except those pills you gave me.
Something crossed his face then, quick as a bird's shadow. Not concern. Something that looked almost like satisfaction.
That's normal. The Genesis Protocol is very precise. Your body knows what it needs.
Outside, the clinic's waiting room held 6 other women, all visibly pregnant, all staring at their phones with the same fixed expression. Yunsol recognized one from her last visit, a younger woman, maybe 25, whose name tag read Hanul. She'd been 3 months along then. Now she looked ready to deliver.
Excuse me, weren't you... How far along are you?
Hanul looked up, and Yunsol saw her eyes were wrong. Not the color, the depth, like looking into water that went down forever.
4 months. Why?
You look...
I know. Dr. Yang says some of us are just better suited to the protocol, more receptive.
She smiled, and Yunsol noticed her teeth seemed sharper than they should be. Not filed, just shaped differently, as if her mouth had reorganized itself around some new purpose. That night, Yunsol dreamed of splitting. Not birth. Splitting, her body opening down the center like a book, pages fluttering out, each one inscribed with instructions she couldn't read. When she woke, her sheets were soaked, and her stomach had grown 3 inches overnight. The text was from a number she didn't recognize. Stop taking the pills. Meet me at the old fish market on Pier 17. Come alone. Hanul.
How did you get my number?
The response came immediately. Dr. Yang keeps files on all of us. I broke into his office last week. You need to see what I found. The fish market had been closed for years, ever since the health inspectors found something in the water they wouldn't name publicly. Yunsol's umbrella did nothing against the rain that seemed to fall sideways, driven by wind that tasted of salt and rot. Hanel waited inside the gutted market, standing in what had been the main hall. The roof had partially collapsed, letting in fingers of rain that pooled on the concrete floor. In the dim light from her phone, Yunsul saw that Hanol looked different than she had that morning. Thinner. Wrong.
What happened to you?
I stopped taking the pills 3 days ago. It's trying to leave.
She lifted her shirt. Her stomach moved independently of her breathing, something pressing against the skin from inside, making shapes that weren't hands or feet, weren't anything that should exist inside a human body.
Jesus Christ!
Not Christ. Older than that. Dr. Yang didn't invent Genesis 7s. He found it. The formula's been around for centuries, passed down through families who wanted children but couldn't have them. Perfect children. Special children.
She pulled out a folder, pages water-stained and crumpled. Photocopies of old records, some in Korean so archaic Yunsul could barely read it, others in English that seemed translated badly, urgently.
It's called the completion protocol. You take the pills, you get pregnant, and what grows inside you isn't entirely yours. It's half you, half something else, something that's been waiting a very long time to be born.
That's insane. I've had ultrasounds, blood tests, everything's normal.
Is it? Look at this.
She thrust her phone forward, showing Yunsul a photograph of an ultrasound image. The fetus looked human enough at first glance, but the longer Yunsul stared, the more wrong it became. The proportions shifted. The spine had too many vertebrae. And the face, when she could make it out through the grainy black and white, seemed to have too many features, as if multiple faces were layered on top of each other, waiting to decide which to wear.
That's my baby, or what they're calling my baby. I found 17 other files in Dr. Yang's office, 17 women, all on the Genesis protocol, all developing the same thing.
What are they?
The files call them Ban-jjok-i, half children. They're born incomplete on purpose, missing parts, missing pieces. But what they're missing isn't physical, it's human. They come out wrong and they stay wrong and they need to complete themselves.
The sound came from deeper in the market, past the rows of empty stalls where fish had once been displayed on beds of ice. Unsul's hand went to her stomach instinctively.
Someone's here.
He followed you. I knew he would.
Dr. Yang stepped into the light, and Yunsul saw he wasn't wearing his clinic clothes. He looked older in his dark coat, his face less kind without the institutional fluorescence to soften it. And he wasn't alone. 2 other figures emerged behind him, both women, both heavily pregnant. They moved in perfect synchronization, their faces blank as dolls.
Hanol, you're making this very difficult. The protocol requires willing participants.
We were willing until we knew what we were carrying.
You're carrying miracles. Children who will be better than human, stronger, more complete. The Ban-jjok-i aren't monsters, they're evolution.
Evolution into what?
He turned to her and his smile was back. But it looked different now. Hungry.
Into something that can survive what's coming. This world is dying, Yunsul. Poisoned water, poisoned air, poisoned everything. But the Ban-jjok-i can adapt. They're designed to thrive in conditions that would kill normal humans. Your ancestors understood this. That's why they created the protocol.
my ancestors.
Why do you think I chose you? Your family line has always produced strong mothers, receptive mothers. Your grandmother was part of the first trial back in 1962. She delivered a beautiful half-child. It lived for 3 days before she smothered it with a pillow.
The words hit like ice water. Yunsol's grandmother had died when Onsol was 12, but she remembered the woman's hands, how they'd shaken constantly, how she'd refused to hold babies at family gatherings, turning away when anyone offered her an infant to coo over.
You're lying.
I have her journals. Would you like to read them? She wrote very detailed descriptions of what she saw when it opened its eyes, how it looked at her with something that wasn't love or need, but hunger, recognition, as if it had been waiting a very long time to meet her.
He's not going to let us leave. The ones who know too much don't make it to delivery.
The two pregnant women moved closer, flanking Dr. Yang. Up close, Yunsol could see their eyes held that same depthless quality as Hanul's had in the clinic. But these women had gone further. Their skin had taken on a waxy quality, as if something inside them was changing their composition from within.
You have a choice, Yunsol. Continue the protocol, deliver your child, and be part of something greater than yourself. Or resist, and we'll have to accelerate your timeline.
Accelerate?
The Ban-jjok-i can be extracted early if necessary. It's not ideal. They prefer full gestation, but it can be done. Though the process is quite hard on the mother.
One of the women reached out and Yunsol saw her fingernails had darkened to black, grown longer, curved like claws. Not painted. Grown. Onsol ran. She didn't think, just turned and sprinted back toward the market entrance, her feet slipping on wet concrete. Behind her, she heard Hanul scream, a sound that cut off too quickly. Then footsteps, multiple sets, moving faster than pregnant women should be able to move. She burst out onto the pier and kept running, the rain now so heavy she could barely see. Her car was parked 3 blocks away, but she'd never make it. The footsteps were gaining, and something in her stomach had started to move, pressing against her ribs from inside, as if whatever was in there knew she was trying to escape.
Please, no, please.
She stumbled, went down hard on her knees on the wet wooden planks. When she looked back, she saw all 3 of them, Dr. Yang and the 2 women, standing in a line backlit by the market's failing lights. They weren't rushing. They didn't need to. They knew she had nowhere to go.
It's already too late, Yunsol. You've been on the protocol for 3 months. It's rooted now. Part of you. Even if you ran to a hospital, even if you demanded an abortion, they'd find nothing wrong. The Ban-jjok-i know how to hide.
Yunsol pressed her hands to her stomach, feeling the movement inside, more insistent now. Not kicking. Something else. Something that felt like fingers, pressing back against her palms through layers of muscle and skin.
What do they want?
To be born, to complete themselves. And they choose carefully, Yunsol. They choose mothers who have something they need. Your grandmother's child wanted her strength. Hanul's wanted her resilience. Yours wants something special.
What?
Your guilt.
The word landed like a stone in still water. Unsol felt herself go cold despite the rain.
I know about the first pregnancy, the one you terminated when you were 23. The one you've never told anyone about. The Ban-jjok-i can sense that kind of wound. They feed on it. Your child will be born knowing your regret, and it will use that knowledge to complete itself. It will become the perfect child you destroyed, but better, stronger, impossible to lose.
You're insane.
Am I? Or am I the only one being honest? You came to me desperate for a child, Unsol. Desperate enough to take pills without asking too many questions. Desperate enough to ignore the warnings. Your body knew what those pills were from the first dose. That's why you couldn't keep food down. Your human side was trying to reject the protocol. But the part of you that wanted a child, needed a child, that part welcomed it.
The pier groaned beneath them. Unsol looked down and saw the planks were rotting, eaten away by years of salt water and neglect. The wood was soft, crumbling. She could feel it giving way under her weight. And she understood.
Hanel said they need to be born to complete themselves.
Yes.
What happens if they're not?
His smile faltered.
Unsol, don't.
She pushed herself backward, throwing her full weight against the weakest section of railing. The wood splintered, and then she was falling, the rain and darkness swallowing her whole. The water hit like concrete, driving the air from her lungs, and the cold was absolute. Underwater, she felt it thrashing, the thing inside her panicking, its movements no longer careful or calculating. It knew. It understood what she was doing. The cold was poison to it. The protocol required warmth, required the careful temperature regulation of a human womb. The ocean in December was death. Unsol's lungs burned. She needed to surface, needed air, but she forced herself to stay under, to let the cold seep deeper. She felt the thing inside her weakening, its movements becoming sluggish, desperate, and she felt something else, a connection breaking, a tether snapping. The Ban-jjok-i had been feeding on her guilt, but now, drowning in the dark water, she felt nothing but a strange, clean clarity. She had wanted a child, but not this. Never this. When she finally surfaced, gasping, the pier was empty. Dr. Yang and his women were gone. The rain had stopped, leaving only the sound of water lapping against the wooden posts. Unsol dragged herself onto the rocks at the pier's base, her whole body shaking, and pressed her hands to her stomach. Nothing moved inside her. The silence was absolute. They found her 3 hours later, hypothermic and barely conscious. The hospital ran tests, did ultrasounds, checked her blood. The doctor who examined her was young, exhausted from a double shift, but kind.
I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. You've miscarried.
How far along was I?
That's the strange thing. Based on tissue samples, you were only about 6 weeks, but your hormone levels suggested much further. Were you taking any supplements? Anything for fertility?
Unzel thought of the Genesis 7 pills still in her purse, which was still at the bottom of the ocean, feeding the fish and the crabs and the things that lived in the deep places where light never reached.
No, nothing.
They kept her overnight for observation. In the early morning hours, when the hospital was quiet and the nurses were changing shifts, she heard footsteps in the hallway, measured, deliberate. She knew without looking it was Dr. Yang. He stood in her doorway, his silhouette dark against the fluorescent hallway lights. For a long moment, neither of them spoke.
You killed something beautiful.
I killed something wrong.
There were 17 others. You think you saved yourself, but you only delayed the inevitable. The Ban-jjok-i have been waiting centuries to be born. They can wait a little longer.
Not in me. Never in me again.
He smiled, but there was no warmth in it now. Only the cold calculation of someone who had been playing a long game and had just lost a piece, but not the match.
We'll see. Your type always comes back. The desperate ones, the guilty ones. The ones who want so badly to fix what they've broken that they'll swallow anything we offer them.
He left, and Unsettling lay in the dark, listening to the hospital's night sounds. The beep of monitors, the whisper of air through vents, the distant cry of someone else's newborn baby. She put her hand on her stomach, feeling only her own skin, her own muscle, her own body returned to her. Empty, but whole. 3 weeks later, the clinic burned down. Electrical fire, the news said. Dr. Yang's body was found in his office, along with 17 files spread across his desk. The news covered it for 2 days before moving on. 17 women came forward, all former patients, all reporting similar experiences. But their blood tests came back normal. No evidence of anything unusual. No proof. Hanel's body was found in the market 3 days after Yunsol's hospitalization. The coroner's report said she'd hemorrhaged during a miscarriage. Her stomach had been cut open from the inside, as if something had been trying very hard to get out. Months later, Yunsol stood at her window in the early morning light. She thought about her grandmother sometimes, about the woman she must have been before the protocol, about the choice she'd made, about refusing. She understood now. There would be other doctors, other desperate women, other promises of miracles that came with prices no one could afford. But there would also be women who refused, women who chose the cold water, women who understood that some things were better left unborn.
Some things are meant to stay incomplete.
Outside, the city woke to another day. Somewhere in those streets, other women were taking pills, following protocols, believing in miracles. And somewhere in those same streets, something waited, patient and hungry, for its chance to be born. But not in her, never again in her. Unsol closed the window and locked it. Then she checked the lock once more just to be sure, because some hungers were meant to go unfed, and some children were never meant to be born at all.